Yo, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 4 of The Lock. First and foremost, if you guys are not following us on anchor.fm/The Lock, you can get The Lock early every Thursday as opposed to Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. The link is down below. With that link, you also have access to us on a plethora of other streaming sites, hopefully soon Spotify and iTunes, as well as there is the Discord link down below if you'd like to join our community. So, I was going to introduce today's guest, but I think it'd be very fitting if he introduces himself. My friend, DuncanCan'tDie.
Hey guys, formerly known as DuncanCan'Die, which Joey keeps calling me. But yeah, no, I'm a Pokemon creator on YouTube that I've been branching out a lot recently. I do a lot more variety and over on Twitch as well. But the thing that I'm most known for, I guess, in the community is that I'm quite outspoken. And so that's today's subject I think he wants to speak about. But I'm a bit intense.
definitely where I get most of my my Duncan fixes is on Twitter as a platform. It's every day just different Duncan banter. It's I don't even consume Pokemon content or anything like that anymore. It's just I'm just so out of it that I just get my fix from the same personalities in other ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way, man. It's a good way.
Basically following on the topic of the banter on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, banter on Twitter is
the term I prefer to use. Banter.
Well, arguments as well, or debates. I mean, it's where I like to keep that contained. I've been branching it onto Twitch, which has actually gone really well for me, but mostly Twitter. And I think it's really important because a lot of people sort of latch onto me arguing with people on Twitter or disagreeing with people. I prefer disagreeing, okay? I do eventually argue if they stay obnoxious, but it's normally start.
It does sometimes go a little further than...
My favorite Duncan line is, "I'm a geneticist." That's actually, I love when that comes out on Twitter. Because I'm not all for drama. I'm very I'm pretty secluded, or I'm far away from the drama I think that goes on. But I do catch it on my timeline occasionally. And when I see that line, "I'm a geneticist," I know it's about to get real. That's
my response, because I always bring up science, right? When I'm arguing with somebody, I like to go very factual. So I'm talking about the science of something. I'm talking about the studies that they'll bring up a study, and I will break that study down. I'll explain to them why summaries of studies are dangerous, and I'll talk about science, and they'll go, "Ooh, who are you, a scientist? You're just a Pokemon YouTuber." I'm like, my degree is in genetics though, so yeah, actually I am a scientist.
So do you actively search for these kind of conversations to have on Twitter, or is it just like something where you see it and then you decide?
They pop up on my timeline. They come up on my timeline. I don't know if it's because people like tweeting them at me. There's often, "What do you think?" at DuncanCan'tDie. There was a very recent one with an anti-vaxxer who just went off about how vaccines were awful, and I don't know. It does come across as toxic to some people, but I think that there's a fine line between being toxic and being opinionated.
Yeah, and that's definitely our topic that we're going into from this. Like, what is this line between being toxic and being opinionated? And I do think that obviously social media has such a huge influence on this in general, right? Like, especially Twitter with their new changes, how I can see what I was going to say my opponent likes for, I'm sorry about that, what other people like. And that definitely, I think, brings up a lot what you were saying too, because you get people who actually tweet at you because they want to see your opinion. They want to, I don't want to say feed you, and they want to get some sort of entertainment out of it as well. Because I do think that is part of the reason as well. Like, I know me personally, again, when I see that line, I definitely know shit's about to get real. And like,
I think you're right. And that is sort of that's the line where I'm like, this is my warning to you. I'm about to change. I'm about to I tread that line, and I'm about to step from opinionated into toxic. So don't test me.
Toxicity is it's like a buzzword. It's a buzzword now that I feel like people just overuse in general, and like they'll use it in gaming and just in terms of like people having arguments on Twitter. If you get a little too passionate about something, and it's declared as being toxicity. But I feel like in a lot of cases, in gaming, I'd say like just being really competitive in general. Like it's okay to get mad at your team if you're just a competitive player. Like I don't see a problem with that
I
per
think
se, as long as it doesn't go into like that line. I think is whenever you start like insulting them as a person.
Yeah, I think that that's very true. I think personal insults is definitely crossing the line into toxicity, and I think with competitive gaming, because you're talking about esports, you know, there have been examples. I'm not going to drop names right now of competitive gamers literally smashing keyboards on stage at events and stuff, just completely unacceptable. I think toxicity is socially unacceptable behavior, right?
Yes,
Right.
but it's not necessarily wrong in that regard, right? If I've trained for months, right, and I'm going up in here and I mess up, and my natural reaction is either not attack the person but be mad. I've definitely hit my desk while playing Pokemon, right? Just being upset. Like you said, I think socially it's unacceptable, but I also don't think it's always wrong, as Key and you were saying too. Like there's definitely that fine line between being angry and then straight up attacking someone as a person. I agree completely with that.
I think the deciding factor is whether you're releasing frustration at another person or just the situation that you're in. You know, you're in a passionate argument and you decide to get your point across in a certain way that people can see as toxic. But I mean, I think it's up for debate. But
I think
there's really no thing.
The other thing that sort of draws that line to me is it in the moment? So you're wound up and you're angry in the moment, or is it like an ongoing grudge? If you hold an ongoing grudge against somebody for something petty, and you hold that grudge for years, and like every time they say anything, you put them down, whatever they try and do something, you have a go at them. That's toxic behavior to me. But then everybody has that line in a different place. And maybe some people would say that the grudge is justified and all of that. So,
I mean,
it's sorry.
Well, a direct comparison to exactly what you said would. I don't want to go too far into this, but I think I'm not trying to pick a side here. Anyone and Verlicify. And I don't want to disclude you here because you're the guest, but definitely you have exchanges regarding Verlicify a lot of the time, and as well as Verlicify and a number. I mean, pick a fucking person in the community.
But
you can find
but I'm not going to claim that people aren't toxic towards Verlicify.
Right. That's
right. I think that toxicity is something that
he did kind of foster.
Kind of brought it upon himself by being toxic to other people first for years. So, but he is toxic towards a lot of people. I'm not going to say everyone. He has friends. I know he does. And he's not toxic towards absolutely everybody. But he's toxic towards a lot of people. And a lot of people are toxic back.
Yeah, I agree. And just to defend you as well, like I've seen you tweet out like, hey, this that when that article came out, basically bashing Verlis, you were on his defense, or at least the defense of the morally right side. Yeah, the morally right side. You were actually on his side, saying how, listen, this is what feeds him. Don't be toxic for no reason, type of thing, right? Like
that article was just salty toxicity for no reason, and it wasn't even relevant to the conversation. It was just for the sake of being toxic. It had like little snipes in there, the whole article, and then tried to pass it off as being professional. It was a very toxic article. So yeah, I've tried to stay, but I've been guilty of it too, right? I've been sitting streaming and Verlis has said nothing and someone's brought him up. They're like, oh, you know, I like this other YouTuber called Verlis. And I'm like, hey, I hate that guy. He sucks. Like, why is that necessary? So nobody's 100% innocent. I think some people are definitely a lot more toxic than others.
Right.
And I try and tread that line, but I slip. Everybody's flawed.
But I feel like whenever you slip as a person with like a big following as a creator and an influencer, it's whenever you slip, it's a little more amplified than like if just some random guy on Twitter is just a toxic individual.
That's such an important conversation that people don't have. I think that there's such a conversation that this is such a new space. Like celebrity has existed for years and years and years, right?
Right.
But people don't have that personal relationship with celebrities.
Right.
If you're a fan of Ben Affleck, you're a fan of Ben Affleck, but he doesn't know who you are. You don't sit and talk in a Twitch chat with him and you don't comment on his YouTube videos and he doesn't build the community slowly. He just was in a movie and all of a sudden had loads of fans.
Right.
You know,
it's such an unexplored market in terms of entertainment that you can basically sell a friendship to people. You're selling a relationship with the viewer.
Yeah, you are. And I think that's why it's a better version of entertainment to a lot of people. They like that sort of very personal entertainment and all of that. But you're right, it does leave a responsibility on creators to maybe be better than maybe we think the average person on the internet should be. Because when you talk about the internet, it's the land of it's the land of anonymity, right? Like you can just say whatever you want and nothing happens to you.
Or at least initially, someone will dig it up later, type of thing. That's why, especially creators, as a creator, we do have this responsibility that we have this following, right? And there are people, and again, the whole Ben Affleck thing, I feel like, especially if people come through to my streams and your streams, like they definitely have a closer relationship with us than they do with someone they watch be Batman or whoever on the screen. So when they see us saying something, they might just take it a step further and be like a diehard type viewer, type fan, and actually go attack him.
We've all got stands. PokeaimMD has stands. People who are like, Joey is the best Pokemon player ever. If you beat him, you're a bad person. How dare you?
I don't think it goes to that extent. But definitely, if someone is personally attacking me, there will be people who defend me, whether it be my friends, my viewers, or just someone who knows of me. And in that regard too, I think that if I have an issue with somebody, it's a lot of the times better to take it in private versus I'm not trying to ruin entire careers based on what I'm saying, right? If me and
based
Duncan,
on personal issues.
Yeah, exactly. If me and Duncan have an issue, right? If Duncan pushed me, shoved me across the room, I can't make this reference. Sorry. If Duncan shoved me across the room when we meet, and I have this sour, like
let's cut to a clip.
Yeah. And I have this angered me, right? And I talk about on Twitter, Duncan is this selfish, malicious person who I had the displeasure of meeting. It's actually 100 times better for me to go into your DMs and say, hey man, I really didn't like that you pushed me. We're not friends like this. And obviously that's not true. Duncan is one of my best friends online, but we're not friends like this. I don't want you to do this. But if I do it the other way that I talked about, my viewers will definitely, there will be some sort of war between them going on.
And then I'm like, well, I was just trying to be friendly and like we were all pushing each other in the room. It was a mosh pit. He's taking it out of context.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes a he said, she said. Yeah. Exactly.
And then my stands are like, wow, Joey's a liar. He took everything out of context. And your stands are like, yeah, but he still shouldn't have pushed him because, consent's important. And then everything becomes a mess. No, I agree. And I think that how can I put this? I think that there's a question that a lot of people ask, and we did have on the list for this, which was creators' responsibility for their community. And I think that is a very separate conversation from what we're talking about now, because actually what we're talking about now is a creator's responsibility to their community, right? To be an example, to be a better person.
Yes.
All of that. A responsibility for your community is a very difficult one. If a member of your community is messing up somewhere else, you have to kick them out of your community, even if they're a good member of your community, because say somebody goes into your stream and is super, super toxic in your stream, but they're one of my top viewers and they've never said anything in my community. How do we deal with that? Right? Like that's a different question, but the responsibility to your community, I think is really important.
Yeah. I agree completely, which is why I actually ended up bringing it in, because I knew we were going to talk about 4, but I felt like it really went with the whole toxicity thing.
Yeah.
So I figured that was something to actually end up bringing up. And that's, again, a really, really good example as well, because for me as a creator, what I would do in that regard is I would definitely ban them, without a second thought.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. No,
I don't. I,
more so on the fact in your example, that's one individual in the community, but like if you want to get into the taking responsibility for your community as a whole, the community that you've fostered and raised.
Yeah.
If there's like generalization of your community is that they're toxic, they go to other people's streams and like inflame them and stuff in your name, that's something I think that you have influence over. If you really try and moderate your community, you can. I'm not going to say you can ever control every single person in the community.
You
but
can.
you can control.
You can
in the
influence that
general sense.
behavior up until a tipping point. So this has actually been a really big topic recently. So Moon, who's a massive streamer, talked about this on stream. He's like, I don't have a community that does this because I come down hard on this behavior.
Right.
And XQC said, yeah, but you don't have 20,000 viewers. So if 1,000 of Moon's viewers, because he's got 5,000, and if 1,000 of them go to someone else's chat, that's 20% of his chat, but that will completely overwhelm someone's stream.
Yeah.
Right. But that's 20%. So 20% of his viewers have to be willing to do that. Whereas if you've got 20,000 viewers, it's only 5% of your stream has to want to do that. So you've got to look at it as in, if 500 people go from my stream, if I'm streaming and 500 people go from my stream to harass somebody, then that's an endemic problem in my audience, because that's my entire audience for that night.
Yeah,
definitely. There's a scale to figuring how much you influence, because I don't want to take it to too deep of a place, but there was the shooter in New Zealand who shouted out PewDiePie. Like he has countless millions of subscribers. He couldn't possibly ever put that on him as a creator to take responsibility for the minute.
The shooter also did that just to get in the news.
Right.
He actually wasn't even a PewDiePie fan, right? That's another thing that's a whole different subject, but like people pretending to be fans in order to do something,
or even just assuming before facts. That's a big thing as well.
But in general, even with that said, that even a small fraction of your community can reflect on you. But there are also other larger creators who don't have that problem. So that it has to come from somewhere.
I think
the community you fostered, I think, plays a big role in that. What diminishing that percentage is, I think, the ultimate goal.
I think you're absolutely right. Getting that percentage as small as possible has to be the goal. It's just, I think Twitch is a different beast to YouTube. I think YouTube, you can control your community a lot better in that respect.
Right.
But Twitch chat is Twitch chat. Like it is a different entity.
Because it's live. That's the big thing as well. Versus these are people in the comments on YouTube. You'll definitely have people arguing, even attacking each other if they have different opinions. But the difference is when it's live versus this is a comment sent after reflecting on a video. And I might disagree with this. So there's definitely I think a big difference between that, at least watching a YouTube video and saying it, and then being live on Twitch chat and actually actively going to attack other people. I think there is that difference.
Key. So I think your stance on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but your stance seems to be that you do have a responsibility for your community, and while you can't make it perfect, your aim should be to get those people as small of a fraction as possible.
I believe, that's a good way of saying how I feel. But also, just to make another example, think of all the communities that defend their communities by saying, you can't have control over them, or all the whatever the argument is for them. You look at them, and they're the same people that aren't really putting in an effort to, you have people like you shouted XQC, you have Ice Poseidon and shit. They have just very undeniably toxic fan bases. And
they actively encourage it, though, especially in the case of Ice Poseidon. They actively encourage that.
I think Ice Poseidon is a lesson in why
you don't
want a toxic community.
Because that's what ended up happening to him.
They're bringing his career to a screeching halt, and I think he's going to be on his ass pretty soon, within the year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he hasn't, and it's proved that he hasn't even been smart with his money or saved. Or I do not understand how you can want to cultivate toxicity. That's the bit I don't understand. I understand people who XQC is the person who ignores it, right? So there's sort of three people. There's the guy who really, really wants to heavily moderate his community. And I think Joey and I have the same opinion on that, which is you get a warning, but if you continue to be toxic in my community, in my server, you're going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
You're gone. I actually go a bit further. And then there's the people who are sort of middling and they're like, look, my community will do what my community does. I just want to entertain and it's not my responsibility. And that's people like XQC who really does not believe it's his responsibility. And I think that's a mindset and that's up to him. And then I think the final one is the Ice Poseidon mindset of just, I'm going to cultivate the toxicity because it creates drama, which creates views. Like Keemstar.
Fuck it, dude. Fuck it, dude.
Yeah.
And then again, what like ended up happening to him? This happened, and now everybody is against him. They're bringing
the problem whenever you're such a huge percent of your toxic fan base or your fan base is toxic. Whenever they turn on you, it's a career-ending move. Whenever they're toxic toward other people, it's all fun and games. You can laugh with them, I guess, but I mean, it's only a matter of time before you fuck up or do something they don't like.
Yeah. I feel like the second example you gave, Duncan, of where you choose to ignore it, kind of is what ends up happening with, again, the bigger stars, right? The entertainers, because and it's interesting because creators, again, we have this more quote unquote personal relationship. There's definitely some type of thing going on. If you come to my streams, obviously you hear me talking directly to you where we're talking, right? It might not be the most personal relationship, but it's definitely, again, different. We've already established that, right? It's different than the stars on TV or the stars in movies. But then again, that second example, really, it feels like that's how they are, right? They
absolutely. And then that's why the mega huge people like Ninja, they're blurring the lines, right? They're not really creator celebrities anymore. They're more like actual celebrity.
Right. You can't really have much of a personal interaction with your community at a certain point. Whenever especially on like Twitch, you're such a big streamer that your chat's moving 100 miles an hour. You can't really.
Like what? There's a reason why a lot of them only reply to donations, because that's the only message they can physically see while actually going through, besides through the memes and things like that. But I still do feel, and I do think that if we're taking Ninja as an example, he does a better job at it, because he will, if something happens, he will speak up about it, at least a tweet.
But I think you're right. And I also think that Ninja's one of the people who got mega huge and still cares, because he has the most extensive moderation team and they are very strict. So while he can't read the whole chat, he always has enough mods in there to read the whole chat, and they are dealing with things.
I definitely wouldn't be surprised to hear that he hired like a PR person to tell him the exact course of action he needs to take in any situation, because he just plays it so perfectly.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's a smart move as well. That's a smart business move, especially with all the influence he does have. Again,
and it keeps that personal connection intact. It makes people think that he's more of a personal creator, which is, it's all very smart. Like, I think that it is the best thing to do, to be mostly responsible for your community. I'm not going to take full responsibility. I've had some monsters in my community that have been discovered and expelled.
And you outed them. Exactly. You outed them. That was the right thing to do. That's just it.
But it's like just horrible people who I thought were close friends and just fucking found out just disgusting stuff. And they were gone immediately.
That kind of goes into another thing I wanted to talk about, and that's just the value in opening a dialogue. And you found this out about the people in your community, and then like you came out with it, like you took
publicly.
That's
I think sometimes there's a line of what you should take public, like Joe was saying earlier. Personal petty stuff that's just between two people,
right?
And is very, especially if it's like not illegal and it's just like a personal beef between two people, that should be dealt with privately. Anytime, for example, in my community, it was a guy who literally broke the law. He harassed somebody for like 8 months.
Well, if there's somebody who's being a menace to your community, I think anyone can agree that it is your responsibility, if you know about it, to take action against that person.
Yep. Yeah. Bring it up to air, take it out, especially if it's somebody that's actually threatening not just you, but your viewers, which you do have this care for, especially if you are, again, the first creator who is just wanting to have a non-toxic community, or minimize the toxicity as much as possible, and actually have, you know, this community, this nice environment type of thing. Not even a nice environment, but a welcoming type thing as well. Like, you don't want that.
Yeah.
First off, you don't want that on your name, and secondly, ideally, you're probably thinking, "Wow, what this person did was disgusting." Or maybe not disgusting, depending on what they actually did. But the right thing to do, I think the right thing to do is get them out. That's it. Even if it's hard too. That's a big thing too. Especially if it's somebody you thought you knew as a friend. Like you said, you had a friend that you knew.
I mean, he traveled from the States, stayed at my house. You know, like
yeah,
like actually he was a community member, and then he joined Free For All, and then became a friend, and then he was traveling the UK, and I was like, hey, come stay at mine for a couple of days, and he did.
But you didn't let that past relationship dictate.
No.
When you found out, you put your foot down, which I think is the right thing to do. I definitely think, especially if evidence comes forward, and you know what they're doing is actually, like you said, targeting the community versus like a little petty thing, like, you know, you shoved me across the room type of thing.
Yeah.
This kind of does go into another thing though, because, you know, I mean, it's easy to talk about like coming forward with something you know about somebody in your community, but I think also, unless you have like a personal experience with that person, you can't fully, like, quote unquote, know about it. Like, you might know of something without really knowing what the situation is, and like it's kind of hard to even make a statement about that, you know, because like you're putting yourself in the position of like, you know, what if I'm wrong? I don't actually know the facts about what's going on, and you like that reflects on you. It might hurt your like your community that
Well, are we talking about what's going on at the moment? Is that the?
Well, I mean, it's very applicable, I think, to what's going on at the moment. I mean, we haven't really outright mentioned it, so I guess for anyone listening that doesn't know, I don't know if someone else wants to explain it in a way that I don't think I can.
I mean,
Duncan, you want to take the
I
liberty
actually
of
struggle with this one, so can I take the liberty here, because I'm really struggling with this one, because someone brought something up and it's been eating away at me. The Dakota situation. So basically, what's happened is in the Pokemon community, 4 different people actually. One of them, Wise Productions, has managed to somehow skate under the radar. Have been accused of either grooming, or flat out pedophilia, or threatening people into sexual relationships, blackmail, and all of that, and using communities against people, actually, in that case. And those 4 people are Wise Productions and Nintendo Dakota, who were accused of outright pedophilia. And there was a lot of evidence there that was sort of undeniable, to the extent that Dakota was featured on Drama Alert and deleted his social media, his YouTube, everything, and he will be investigated by the police. I am sure of it.
I do want to put emphasis on accused of, though, but I don't know what we can legally say. It is alleged. Everything that is mentioned
at the moment, it's all alleged, because there has been no ruling in a court of law, right? So it's alleged until there's a court ruling.
It's alleged, but it looks pretty convincing in at least some of the cases.
Then there was formerly Vegas Jamie, now Sobelmomer, who, again, a lot of screenshots has come out of her allegedly cultivating online relationships with 15 and 16-year-olds when she was in her 20s and 30s, I believe. And then the last one, and the biggest creator in this list, but actually the least severe behavior. It's still bad, but it is the least severe of the 3, is TheKingNappy. And his behavior of blackmailing Hoodlum Scrafty, Hoodlum Callum, into a online relationship, when Callum was 16 and Nappy was 21.
Yeah.
And then later attempting to blackmail Game Boy Luke into a relationship in exactly the same fashion.
Sorry, not to cut you off, but I do think that it's best we talk about it individually, like as in we start here, there, if we're going to actually be talking about them, because I do have certain things to say about certain people. Exactly.
Also, if you want another really clear cut summary, then you can check out. I think Omni did a really good video that kind of sums up the situation and gives like a dialogue about it it's really quick and probably a link in the description.
Yeah, it's 9 minutes long. You guys can go ahead and check it out if you want the whole rundown.
So I struggle with this because you were saying about what you know is true and that you should come forward if there's this kind of monster in your community. And this is something I've struggled with for years, and it makes me very happy that the stuff about Nappy did come out. So if you don't mind, Joey, could we start talking about the Nappy situation and move to the others?
Okay, we can definitely talk about the Nappy one first. Key,
Okay.
you don't care with that?
Right, no, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so I struggle with this because I've known, I don't think I've ever made a secret that I dislike King Nappy, but I've
Right.
never said why.
Yeah.
And it's because I've known about the Callum situation because Callum told me in 2015. But he made me promise never to tell anybody before he told me what it was. And he wouldn't share any of the evidence with me other than showing it to me on his phone, which meant I couldn't, even if I'd wanted to betray his trust, coming forward wouldn't have done anything because Nappy would have just denied it and I had no evidence.
There was no receipts. Right. That's it.
So the thing I've been struggling with for years is, should I come forward anyway? And hope that because I came forward, Callum will. It's cruel to Callum, though, at that point, right?
It's such a hard. I feel like that's such a hard line because on one hand, you're helping Callum in a sense. You are helping Callum. There's I think you are definitely helping him, but you're also betraying trust, and you don't know how he'll react as well. But I feel like if I'm in the situation where someone I care about is hurting over something, I don't know if I could keep it silent myself because I want to make a change. And I obviously want to, I don't even think it's a sort of avenge, but I want to make things right.
Yeah.
Right?
So the way I justified it to myself, and I still don't know if I was right. And if I'm wrong, you know what? I'll take it. It was the wrong decision. It was a very difficult decision. But the way I justified it to myself is the situation was over with. And I was providing Callum with friendship, support. I introduced him to my whole friend group. You know, I helped him grow his social circle. He actually ended up moving to the same town I live in for a year and made more friends and all of that and became much more confident. So I was almost helping him. And I felt that if I betrayed his trust, I couldn't help him anymore because I think that he'd have felt betrayed again. And he just lost his friend group, and betraying him as a friend felt like the wrong thing to do. And again, I do not know if what I did was the right thing.
Yeah,
what I've seen a lot of is people that knew, quote unquote knew. I'll say that. I mean, they're getting a lot of criticism from the community, I guess, but they're just kind of taking a moral high ground against the people that knew. But you can't say that you know what you would do in that situation until you're put in it.
Yeah.
No,
and people, I think, 1 second, as for you specifically, you're a creator, and this is true in any industry. Even if you hear rumors, see hints, or it came from a trusted source in your instance, but anyone else around the community, they might have just heard something in passing. But you're in the same business as them, and you have your own things to deal with, and you can't really easily take it upon yourself to investigate something for somebody that someone whose value in that market might be just way higher than yours. You take a stance against a creator that's 5 times the size of your channel, it could backfire if it turned out it wasn't true.
I have to say it was a consideration that if I took that stance and I outed Nappy as having done this, and Callum didn't back me up, and Callum didn't go public with his proof, and Callum didn't say anything, right? And Callum was like, nope, never happened. And Nappy said, nope, never happened.
There goes your career.
That'd be done.
Yeah. And obviously that's something you have to take into account because I think in 2015 or maybe it was 2016, that's when you officially made it what you were doing, right?
Yeah. I started this full time mid 2016, so about a year later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that backfires, you screw yourself out because you're basically forcing the audience to choose between a huge major, let's call him a major influence in the scene that you're trying to penetrate, and then they have to choose between him and you, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to go with the guy that already is made a big scene.
But
I've got
to ask myself the question though, if I had come forward about Callum, would that have scared Nappy enough that he wouldn't have tried to do the same to Luke? even if it had destroyed my career and all of that, maybe he wouldn't have tried to do the same to Luke.
I'm on the edge of that one because I know, people like that, and I'm going to say people like that, people like Nappy allegedly has been accused of being.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think they think that way. I don't think they apply logic and like they're like, oh, close call. It's like
it's like what happened with Decoder. It's
like
literally
a serial killer gets almost caught. He's not like, oh, I'm swearing off this for life. He's gonna get the itch to go do some more killing, and then it's gonna catch up with him eventually. But he's only worried about what's in that moment.
It's a fair point. I just don't know. I don't think I will ever know if I made the right decision.
Yeah, it's tough. It's literally tough, and I think even live and learn. Does that even really work in this case? Because you still don't know. After
confronted with the exact same decision, I don't know what I would do. I do not know if I would do.
I do want to say about the Nappy, because obviously I'm friends with Nappy, right? And I didn't know any of this, right?
No, you didn't know. You're one of the few people I didn't tell.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you didn't tell me. No, I don't know how I would have been able to do it,
because I don't know how you'd have reacted.
I don't know how I would have dealt with it, dude. I really don't. And I'm a firm believer in, I don't care. I feel like I'm a firm believer in, it doesn't matter if my friend group doesn't like you. If I see something cool in you or whatever, or I want to work with you, right? Like I definitely have people around the community that don't like each other, period. Right? I definitely have friends groups that don't like other friend groups, but I'm still friends with both sides.
You're definitely one of those people who's not in a clique.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not like Shofu's clique or Nappy's clique or this clique or that clique in the Pokemon community. You are friends with basically everybody and the people that you want to be friends with.
I mean, people might know me for the Hitafita gang, and I've definitely been in, the group with Shofu and all my friends for years. But I can definitely put myself everywhere. And when I heard this Nappy stuff, I was devastated. And it's also, and I think the big thing as well, and I do hope that Callum does eventually come forward with, I want to say evidence, because I'm not that I'm doubting him. And I did PM him and I said, dude, I'm so sorry what you went through. I didn't know. Yeah. I did the same thing for Luke or whatever. But I do believe that, first off, evidence is definitely, because it's alleged up until then, right? So I just want to add that since the recording of this episode, there's been new evidence against Nappy, and he has deleted his Twitter with no further statements addressing the situation. It's a he said, she said, and he.
What I can say, and I know that my word doesn't mean that much, is in 2015 I saw the Skype DMs, and I saw that I saw the evidence, right? So I saw it with my own eyes on Skype, like irrefutable.
Yeah.
The problem is, I have no idea if Callum had the foresight to save those.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge thing as well, because another thing, and don't, lash out on me for this. And I've also been struggling, like, how would I say this? But it is not illegal it's definitely pedophilic, right? Pedophilia or whatever. But it is not illegal to date someone who is younger than you. The only thing that is illegal is obviously having sex or sexting, child pornography, all that sort of things, right? So I definitely think while it is creepy, and again, I'm not trying to break any lines with this, because I do think it was creepy, it was malicious, there was all this, but what ended up happening, and again, you could also argue he was older and Callum was younger, and he's definitely manipulating him in this sort of way, and blackmail is definitely a big thing. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
But the dating scenario is
the part that would be illegal, and it's all alleged, is if Nappy ever asked Callum to travel to meet him. It doesn't matter if you're even asking for them to travel to meet for the purpose of sex. If you are in an online relationship with somebody who is underage in a different country and you ask them to come out and visit you, it is assumed that it's because you want to make the relationship physical.
Yes.
And Nappy did try and convince Callum to fly out several times.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring that up because I know that's something that I've also been seeing as well. And then obviously and that's a big thing too, because the legal age in Callum's country is 16 versus ours is obviously 18. In Arizona in 2015, it was still 18 as well.
And again,
this is just something I just wanted to bring up.
The legal age of consent in our country is a little bit more complex than just flat out being It's a little more complex than just flat out being 16 in this country. Position of power is a really important thing in this country. So if somebody has a position of influence over you, then it's 18. And then age differential, and he's in Scotland and all of that. It's very until you're 18 in this country. 16 is sort of a soft age of consent, and there's a lot of things that can sort of bump it to 18 if there are certain situations.
So
you know,
also legal or not, it's completely just it's
immoral.
It's abhorrent behavior to put them in that position and give them like an ultimatum of like,
I think it's disgusting.
It's basically holding their potential like career and just their friends, all their personal relationships over their head, and being like, I'll take this all away from you if you don't comply with what I want.
And I think that's the very telling thing. And I do want to say this, Joey, because you did say about evidence, and I know a lot of people are hard. There's no evidence in Callum's situation, therefore we're not going to believe it until it's proven. But the one thing I will ask people to consider, and this is circumstantial evidence, which it's not ever hard proof, but you can use your logic. What are the odds that Callum would make up a story in 2015 that would then come true in 2017 with Luke? The exact same situation. The exact same blackmail, which has been proven in screenshots and DMs. The exact same, are you sure you're not gay? It's a spectrum. Give it a try. The exact same, fly out, come visit me as a friend. And then when they get there, I thought we were trying out the relationship. The exact same manipulations. And Nappy's live stream, he even said it. He said, we'd get closer and closer and closer. And then I'd be like, clearly because you're a close friend, it means you want a relationship with me. And this was it was logical dissonance. Like even people in the chat were like, what do you mean? You can get really close with somebody just as a friend. I'm really close with Joey as a friend, but I don't want to date him, and they got close. And then Nappy would say to Luke, I want to date. And Luke would pull back. And Nappy's like, and every time he'd pull back. And then I'd be like, I'm sorry. Let's just see what happens. If you don't want to date, that's fine. And then we'd get closer again. And it's the logical dissonance there of not realizing that is wrong. That if somebody says, no, I am not interested in dating you, I just want to be friends. And then you keep becoming close friends and then springing that on them, and then becoming close friends and springing on them. That's wrong. That's a bad behavior. It's manipulative and it's
not seeing that from his standpoint. It makes me question, and this is completely off script here. It makes me question, do you think that Nappy might have some sociopathic tendencies, other than what you think has been demonstrated in this?
I am not a psychologist.
Let's preface that.
And diagnosing sociopathy is incredibly complex. So I think that we've got to leave that to a therapist who I hope Nappy will choose to see based on this whole situation. I don't think Nappy's going to see any legal ramifications. I think it's been so long and it's so hard to prove that Callum was in a position of being under power of Nappy. So in the UK, it would be hard to prosecute. And if Callum wanted to prosecute in the States, that's going to be a mess. So I don't think he's going to see any legal consequences. What I really hope he does see is some moral consequences, some people going, hey, that wasn't right. And he goes and gets help and sees somebody and deals with his clearly unhealthy way of viewing relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
There's one thing is, trying to do damage control and saying you have regrets about it and whatever, which he definitely should do. And I don't think he has actually admitted any fault.
He outright denied it.
He denied the whole column.
That's completely despicable. But it would be one thing if he tried to do damage control, and another thing completely if he actually takes anything from this situation. You have to try to be a better person. If that's what you really want to take from this. It's not don't get caught. It's not like come on, man, don't try to save your ass. Just actually strive to be not a piece of shit.
Even though knowing what I've known, knowing it from 15, I think if it had just been Callum's accusation and didn't have the exact same accusation from Luke with evidence, I think that people would be right to go, I'm not sure I believe Callum, because you can't just online take someone's word as fact and do guilty until proven innocent, right? I do think that that's an unhealthy mindset, but I think the fact that Luke posted evidence of the exact same situation, even to somebody who hasn't seen what I've seen and hasn't known for as long as I've known, I think that's got to give you pause in saying, no, we outright need evidence from Callum, otherwise Callum's a liar.
Sorry, but just before, because Luke posted it before Callum, and I was talking with a friend of mine who will remain anonymous for now, and when Luke posted those screenshots, and obviously, again, I felt for Luke, and I don't want anybody listening to this to think that I'm a monster or anything. No, I care about my friends. And I DM'd him as well, and I said, I'm sorry for what you go through, because that's like, what else can I do at that point, right? Besides saying I'm sorry for what you went through. But before Callum posted what he said, when I was reading the Luke logs, I was thinking to myself, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but this is just the truth. I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with being, coming on to somebody. That's one thing. At least, as long as it's not like harassment in a way or anything like that. But when Callum ended up coming out with this, and it all started lining up, is like, okay, yeah, there's something up here.
Yeah, it seems too formulaic. Like he has it down to too much of a routine that it feels like there might be others that this has happened to that just haven't said anything yet.
I mean, he admitted in the screenshots to Luke, I believe, or no, he said to Callum, and it's in Callum's thing, that he had to do it with people that he worked with before, like he had to cut them off and quit his job. And I genuinely don't think he thinks that there's anything wrong with aggressively coming on to somebody over and over and over again, because the way he was talking about it, and he said, oh, Luke and I would get close and then I'd come on to him and then he'd say no, and then we'd get close again and I'd come on to him. And I genuinely don't think that he thinks that that is wrong. And that's why I don't think Nappy thinks he's in the wrong. I don't believe he actually thinks he's done anything wrong, because I don't think him saying, oh, if we can't date, you're out of my friend group, is wrong. I think he thinks that's okay.
Yeah,
he thinks that's normal behavior.
And that's so foreign. The idea of not being able to see the issue in that it's so foreign to me that I can't wrap my mind around that being the thought of someone that's not someone in their right mind. That screams to me sociopath. But I of course can't say that. I can't.
It doesn't just scream sociopath though, because there are lots of other things it could be. It could just be a logical dissonance. It could be something that he's learned behavior. Like he could still have empathy for people. That he could think he could just be selfish. It could just be that he really can't be around people. And instead of him removing himself from the situation and saying, I'm going to remove myself when you're around, so if you're in cool, I'm not going to be, that would have been fine. If he'd said, if you join cool, I'm going to leave the cool, because even though we have the same friends, I can't be around you because I'm attracted to you and I can't deal with that. That would be his weakness, and him admitting his weakness and him taking steps to deal with that. Right. But to say you are expelled from this, that is taking control of everything.
And no one else can talk to you. That is definitely,
yeah,
no, that's definitely, like, even the whole going up and saying, when Mo was trying to make amends with certain groups, Nappy would PM him.
Oh my God.
And
do you know how long it took at PAX? Mo and Shelby had been friends for years. And at that PAX, it took me several hours to convince them just to go to the Elgato party, and let's all just go to the Elgato party and have fun. Look, guys, I've got VIP wristbands for everybody. Elgato partners. Yeah, let's do this. I got like 15 wristbands. I pushed my sponsorship to its absolute limit. I mean, K-Cray came on one of my wristbands. I mean, just everybody, right? Just so I want everybody to have a great time, and I'll schmooze and make up for it later. And they posted one picture together, and Nappy was DMing him, threatening him with physical violence.
Yeah, there was it's definitely it just came as such a shock though too, because again, like, for everybody listening as well, Nappy, and that's why that's why all I tweet is like, what the hell is going on? Like, I can't even process all this right now, because this is my friend none of this has ever happened to me. I'm just gonna preface it with that. Like, obviously Nappy's never come on to me or whatever. And I believe, I can't speak for Shady Penguin, but I'm assuming it was similar as well. Like, I don't think Nappy ever came on.
Shady had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I'm aware, Shady had no idea.
Yeah. So it just came as such a shock. And I know people listening to this too are going to be like, what, you hate Nappy type of thing. I'm going to unsub. And it's really just, we're really just discussing this. And again, as we're talking, I'm still in just such shock, like, over it. But I do feel like Shady made the right approach. And I want to quote something from his tweet longer. And it says, however, I've always tried to protect my channel and my community from situations that I feel do not line up with the vision I have for that part of my life. With that, I've decided that the Soul Link is going to be canceled. And much like Shady, I also feel like if I have this is what's going on right now is definitely not where I see, my channel going, where I see myself, what I want to be aligned with. So even if it's only alleged right now, and obviously there's evidence that is out there even if it's only alleged right now. I also too will be distancing myself, at least until something comes up that makes me change my mind. I think that's just a fair and smart thing to do in that sort of case. And I just wanted to mention that while it was going on.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention is that while it was despicable and it was manipulative of a friend group, the difference, a lot of people are equating it, right? And I think a lot of people thought I was guilty of this, and I have tried to make it clear. A lot of people are equating it to the same thing as Dakota.
It's not at all, and it's
even
not
Jamie.
And
it's not on the same level.
No, it's not.
As far as I'm aware, there was no sexual abuse of any kind. There was no, I don't know with Callum because he's a very reserved person, but I would assume that Nappy was smart enough not to send sexual images to a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Even if he was this manipulative and trying to have a relationship, I don't think that he would be that stupid. I think stupid is the word to discuss there. So even if he wanted to, I don't think he would have, because I don't think he's that stupid. I know with Luke, even though he was very pressured, and there were some words like Luke's tweeted out, and he's explained this story in the car when Nappy turned to him and goes, this is going to happen anyway, which is unbelievably creepy.
Jesus.
But it never happened. Nappy, he stayed in Nappy's house for 2 more days after that, and Nappy never did anything to him. So there was no sexual contact. There was no actual sexual harm to anybody. Emotionally, very distressing to be exiled from your friend group and all of that, but not illegal.
Yeah. And again, I just wanted that. That's why I talked about that in the beginning, because I wanted that to be said.
It's not the same level. Anybody saying it's the same level as Dakota is crazy, because Dakota sent naked images to 13-year-olds. Like, that is just
yeah,
a whole different level.
That's a whole, like, that made me physically want to throw up, like, type of thing. Like, right now, that's disgusting. It's not even, again, and that's why I'm actually glad you talked about Nappy first, that we got Nappy said, because I agree completely. Not the same level at all. And yeah, go ahead.
The difference here, I think, between the Nappy situation and that also in the Nappy thing, it's hard to come out with like as evidence, because, like, as I said, you don't really know all the facts and everything, right? Like, you can't come out against them, and like for various reasons. But in regards to Dakota, I mean, to quote a Duncan tweet here I have pulled up yesterday, he says, of course they knew, everyone knew, people in that group even had evidence. He goes on to say, they didn't just know, they protected him. See, that's the big problem here. That's where it really starts to reflect on the community as a whole.
And actually, that might be the worst thing Nappy did, because I know Nappy had evidence. I know that they all did. Jay YouTube Gamer, they quickly shut him up when he started admitting that they all had evidence and they all known, and they dragged Dakota into schools. I heard the rumors about Dakota from Cabana Mani years ago, right? That's why I've never associated with him, and every time he's shown up on a appeared, all of that. But I've been trying to get that evidence because I knew it existed, and I've got oodles of DMs that I could leak of me asking people, hey, do you have this evidence of Dakota? Do you have this? Do you have that? Can I get that evidence? I'll go to the police. You don't have to, because it's criminal. What he was doing was criminal. Right. But nobody wanted to share the evidence, and that's why I'm upset that people were protecting him. That's protecting somebody, and that's not right.
It's crazy. It's very very parallel to the Harvey Weinstein situation in Hollywood. It's an industry that just covers up sexual predators. We don't want to be that. That's very harmful, I think, to the community as a whole.
Agreed. And it actually goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, when Duncan had the choice: does he out his friend or does he do that? And Duncan, makes the right choice, right? For the sake of the community, he disassociated himself with his friend, type of thing, and brought it out. And again, in Dakota's case, evidence does need to be brought forward, and it was. I think that I'm really glad that that's out there, and we're not going to see him in the Pokemon community, because this is definitely something we do not want in our community. A lot of people were saying, the Pokemon community is in shambles, and and then other people are just saying, and I agree with them. This is actually a new light for the Pokemon community where we can step forward. Um, and
Yeah.
I think it united a lot more than it divided, because no
Yeah.
one's really outwardly trying to support the other side. There's no opposition here, I think, besides the individuals themselves.
Yeah, agreed completely. It definitely put a lot of people together that you don't typically see, and it also started bringing forth, the Me Too movement, where people started
Yeah,
talking
other
about
instances. Yeah, so there was the instance with I can't remember his Twitter name now. I've just been reading about it today, but he's a data miner. He's known for data mining, and I'm trying to find it. He got nudes off of somebody when they were 15.
Oh boy.
Provably, there was full proof of the whole thing, and yeah, so that came out today, and it's very. I think it started with Attack on Sylveon, and I think it's really important to say how brave it is that she came out after years, after so many people had defended Nathan, Nintendo Dakota, and she came out and she made her video, and she basically inspired everybody to feel comfortable because she was so overwhelmingly supported that support from the community and everybody having her back and going, yeah, this is disgusting. Yeah, good on you. You're so brave. And she sort of started our little PokemonMeToo movement. And I think that it's actually brought a lot of it out the woodwork. And what shocks me is just how
much we didn't know, how much we did not know behind our community. And dude, it's insane what ended up happening. And I'm not trying to plug our podcast, but the thing about this podcast that I really like is that you get to see, like, how do we describe it, Key? Where it's the creator that you see, but the person behind the creator.
You don't see their online persona that they're trying to portray in like an entertaining way. You get to see the person behind the mask of just the real person behind it.
Yeah.
So I'd only watched like the first episode when it came out because I was like, oh, what's this that Joey's done? And then I haven't had time because they're quite long. And then you invited me on. So I decided, I'll rest. I'll just watch bits and pieces just to see how it goes. I have to say, I've sat through every single episode now. Like, I just couldn't. Every time I start, it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I didn't know this about this person. I've been friends with Radadactyl, Alex, for years. And I was learning
she rebranded too, by the way. She's Rad Puppy now.
Yes, Rad Puppy now. Yes.
Yeah.
She had to. That wasn't even a choice, her rebrand. It's because Radadactyl was a trademark from a
actually
Tower game.
Yeah. The person you were talking about, by the way, was Mizumi. Their Twitter's gone now, though.
That's the one, and that's probably why I couldn't find it because it's gone now.
His name is Billy. But yeah, like just going back, like it's just insane the stuff we did not know, and I'm happy that these things are finally starting to come forward.
Yeah. It's obviously a terrible situation, but if there's anything good to come from it, it's the fact that, we kind of are able to come together as a community, and, we set a precedent where no one in the community should like be afraid to come out with like anything they have to say about, any allegations or any problematic behavior with a community leader. Shouldn't be met with silence.
Yeah. And I think we may see false allegations going forwards. It might happen. But I think it's better to take the couple of false allegations and believe people when they come forward than it is to just instantly discount it because it's your favorite creator or he makes your favorite series. I like free-for-alls. So this person who came forward and said that Duncan, shot his cat shouldn't be listened to. I don't know. It was a bad example.
No, it's just, we get exactly what you mean. And I also think there were stuff that came forward too that didn't necessarily have to do with anything that was going on, but I do think that at least the confidence that people got out of it is a good thing. And it definitely helps see people in a new light. Again, like there was like some stuff that I saw, and I'm not going to bring anything by name, but that was like, that has nothing to do with the situation at hand. But I'm glad that you felt at least safe to come forward with something, and just outing predators in our community again. And I'm not I'm not lining up Nappy with the decoder or the Vegas Jamie thing, Muck and Mama thing, because there's definitely a huge difference with what ended up happening, as far as we know. But I'm glad that, you know, as far as Predator goes, Decoder is out there and he's, you know, out of the community. He's not going to have a second chance. And I think it's interesting too, because he ended up leaving the friend group that kind of like initially pushed him out, and found another friend group that didn't know anything, but they immediately dumped him once they found out. And I think that's the right thing to do. And that still goes back to responsibility as a creator, and responsibility to your community, and responsibility like
for your community.
For your community.
Three different things. They're three different things. And sometimes people ignore one, and then they're like, "Oh, because I do these." Like, it's not how it works. I don't think.
Yeah. No, I'm overall glad it ended up coming forward. That was a crazy weekend for.
Yeah, it's a real wild ride. To say the least. I logged off Twitter for about an hour. I came back to absolute chaos.
Yeah, dude, I was at my mother-in-law's house, and I saw some tweets. I said, "What the hell is going on?" And 4 hours later, like 10 million different stories coming out. And I heard that Nappy was streaming about something too. And all I saw was, I did see a lot of the community coming together, and I do think it's sad, and I do think that viewers should also have their own opinion versus obviously bangwagging on something, or like being sheep towards something, right? Like, for example, the whole Decoder thing. If he had any viewers or subscribers that came forward and said, "Hey, no, I like his LP," like you were saying, he couldn't have possibly done this. I think that's just wrong, right? Look at the evidence, make an assumption for yourself, have an educated opinion, and go forward with that too. And
I mean, during this podcast, someone has tweeted at me in one of the lines in their tweet. It's very long, but they said, "There's no reason such a great series like the Soul Link with TheKingNappy and Shady Penguin needs to come to an end. If Nappy did it, so what? He should apologize and move on. But why are we losing this content?"
Yikes! That's a hot take.
It's just I don't understand that mindset.
That's such a bad mindset from both sides as well. From one, first off, again, this is Shady's livelihood, right? This is Shady's livelihood. He has a wife, he has a kid, he has a dog, he has a house, right?
Yeah, like a mortgage to pay.
Yes, he's going to. Yeah, and from a business standpoint, you're not going to do something, and that's why I read that quote. He's not going to do something that doesn't align with his vision. And obviously, even if it's just allegations, until allegations are proven either false or true, you're not going to. I'm not going to do something stupid, right? We'll put something on hold. We'll do this. We'll back away from that because I think that's the correct thing to do. I honestly think that's the correct thing to do.
It's like I think Shady was waiting to see how Nappy addressed it.
Yes.
And I think that stream was such a weak defense and actually made him look worse that Shady then had no choice. Like if somebody's defense that they come forward with is a stream where they avoid the subject for the entire time. And I think Shofu said it best as well, which is if you are in this situation and someone's coming at you and the allegations are false and none of your friends stand up and say it's not true, but all of them turn and say, actually, no, this is true, then you've got to think about it like that. Like it's not a good look if somebody like Shady then continued to work with him. Yeah. Because of the views.
Yeah. He's gonna do what's best for his family, for himself, for his life, type of thing. And so I do think he made the correct, idea. And like even me, like I said, Nappy is a good friend of mine, right? And we had a plan to collab October 3rd, 2019 from like 2-3 years ago. It was literally planned, and now I'm not, unless something ends up coming forward that completely, and again, I'm not downplaying what happened to Callum, what happened to Luke, right? But it's still allegations until...
You're saying theoretically in a situation like this, if Nappy was completely exonerated, then of course you could start working with him again.
Exactly, because it
doesn't look like that's likely, but if it happened.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to attack his fan base. I'm not trying to attack any fan base at all with this. This is just the reality of the situation. At the end of the day, we are business people, right? And we're going to do what is right for our business, what is the smarter move. And what is right might necessarily equate to what gives us the most views, and also might also end up matching up with what is morally right versus what is I forgot the word. It starts with F.
If we wanted to be immoral, we'd be stockbrokers, like or lawyers.
I also I want to
That's a hot
interject
take.
for a second, just so it's not taken out of context here. This episode definitely was not planned to be this. That we weren't trying to profit off the situation.
There's no ads being run.
We
I'm not
already
gonna-
had Duncan planned for a guest, and just the topics that we were going to talk about kind of lined up with already.
Yeah.
I've got messages from you from like
discussed
6 days. We should probably pop them up on screen, like the messages where we discussed that we're going to talk about Twitter banter,
right,
and Opinionated, and the creative response. We have all of that, and we discussed that well before any of that came out.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
well
it just happened to be. I don't know what happens at PAX, man, but it just happened to be just lined up with what ended up happening, and it's crazy. And obviously, like again, I'm not going to profit off this anyway because I'm not putting any monetization because we mentioned,
but
pedophilia.
even profiting in terms of just exposure,
yeah,
whatever.
exposure reviews, yeah. No, I think that is. Thank you, Key, for saying that. I think that's actually smart.
It is important that we weren't just like, oh, this happened and let's do a podcast, because the main topic was already about toxicity, opinionated responsibility as a creator. It just happened that this is actually something that's very much a responsibility as a creator. To not abuse your audience is another responsibility as a creator.
Yep.
And there are other ways. This is the worst way to abuse your audience, like the Dakota stuff, but there are other ways that people abuse their audience, really pushing people to donate. Those people who are really, really pushy, you have to donate if you want to be like aggressive, saying donate, cheer. If you're a real fan, you'll do this. And that can put people in financial trouble and all of that. So there's a lot of other responsibilities as a creator to your audience that you have to keep in mind.
Oh God, you're just reminding me of that clip that was posted of that person that said, "You're a bad person if you don't donate or subscribe or do this. You're actually a failure as a
leech
as a viewer. Yeah, you're a leech because
you're a leech.
Oh
yeah.
Lord,
yeah, that was so disgusting.
If you watch my stream for more than an hour and you don't donate because you're getting free entertainment,
never sub, never donate.
Oh, ad block always on.
Ad block
stolen
on.
laptop, McDonald's Wi-Fi.
Ad block always on. Oh man. But I am glad we got to talk about it, and even though we mainly talked about obviously toxicity and then what branched out of it, Nappy, Dakota. Do you think we should also talk about Jamie or?
Jamie. I think the screenshots speak for themselves. People can go and find them.
Yeah, that's
it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as Dakota. That's on the same level as Dakota, and I believe she's deleted her Twitter now as well. She's done the same thing. She's gone. Like the people who had the undeniable actual pedophilia come out about them, they're all gone. They're all gone. They've just left because they're hoping to avoid legal consequence, right? They're thinking, if I leave Twitter, people will forget about me and they won't go to the police. And I really, really hope that people will go to the police.
Yeah, do the right thing. And yeah, that's honestly it. I agree completely with that. Wow, it was just such a crazy
weekend.
Yeah. It feels like the fall of a kingdom, bro.
A dynasty. I was thinking the same thing.
It's
end of an era, though.
Appropriate. It is KingNappy.
Yeah.
Based on the stories, and this is just me guessing because honestly, this I can't know. But the last sort of since 2015, Pokemon's become cliquier, and our community in particular has become cliquier and cliquier and cliquier. Like the cliques are getting smaller. Everybody just works within their group. All of that. And based on the stories about how controlling Nappy was of his group, of who they could be friends with and stuff, I'm hoping that was the reason for it, and that things will go back to more like they were when you guys first pulled me into a Skype call and everyone was friends.
Yeah. No,
I'm really hoping that's where things end up.
I definitely think there is some, like with all this coming out, there's definitely some insane room for everybody to grow, at least like friendship wise and collab wise things. Yeah, exactly.
Not to plug our own podcast again, but that's definitely something I wanted whenever I had the idea of pitching this podcast to Joey. Was something I wanted to really do, was like to reach out to all those adjacent communities, all the little cliques as you would call them, and just get perspectives from people that they don't usually see on our channel.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's like the whole thing. That's literally what we want. Like pull people in and just get you to see this other side of them, and ideally just form new friendships, new bonds, and make communities come together, because there's definitely uh I think,
there's a big split in the Pokemon community in general. Like, if you look at other competitive scenes, or I mean, not even just competitive, just anything with a big fandom, like Pokemon YouTubers, and I was talking about this yesterday on stream. Pokemon YouTubers don't really have like a sub forum or like a subreddit on or anything where everyone posts all the content from everybody. There's no real like overarching community that
there's no repository. There's no There's no r/Poketubers.
There is. It is really dead. But I that's something I think that needs to be changed. I think not needs to be, but I feel like the community would benefit from somewhere.
Yeah. No, I agree as well, because it's a joke in a sense what I'm about to say, but I also feel about it. Like, I'm obviously a Poketuber, right? Uploaded Pokemon for 9+ years. But whenever I see these lists from people that have to do with Poketubers, and I consider myself, a pretty big competitive Poketuber.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty big deal on PokeTube.
I don't want to say it like that.
No,
but like when I see these lists that talks about Poketubers and stuff, like for example, this one thing that went up, and I don't see myself on the list. Like I'm not looking for recognition at all, but I try to think when am I considered to these people, and I just think there's such a split in the community between competitive, casual, shiny hunting, and all this stuff, and and the good thing that I think will come out of this, and has started coming out of this, is all the drama that happened, is that this community is willing to come together to out someone who is who deserves to be outed, and hopefully, form a better community out of it, right? That's just it.
A healthier community.
Exactly.
There's a lot about it, and that's why the ongoing joke for me when people are like, I'd get in, right? People would post me in one of the "You're my favorite Poketuber" lists, and my response would be like, "How dare you? I'm not a Poketuber." Like,
never forget where you came from, bro.
I'm trying not to be now. I am trying to diversify a lot more and put up a lot more different games and stuff, and it's not particularly successful.
You want to plug? You want to plug? You got something
I haven't streamed Pokemon on Twitch in 3 months. Like, my Twitch is doing great. It's better than it's ever done. Like,
Shout it out.
I'm really happy. Twitch TV, twitch.tv/DuncanCan'tDie. DuncanCan'tDie everywhere. But YouTube's a very different beast, and trying to diversify there hasn't worked, right? So I know that I'm a Poketuber. On Twitch, if someone said, "What are you on Twitch?" I could very confidently say I'm a variety streamer, right? My most popular streams were Majora's Mask randomizers, where I randomized Zelda games. But with YouTube, I'm definitely a Poketuber, and the joke of saying, "How dare you call me a Poketuber?" isn't me trying to deny that I make Pokemon content. It's almost me saying I don't want to be part of that label, because the label has become so toxic, actually toxic. And for a long time, everybody blamed Just Felicify, but with all of this coming out, you can't really say it's Just Felicify anymore. You can't say, Felicify is the reason.
What came out was, I think it's 100% worse than...
way worse.
Yeah, because
I said it in my stream. I never thought I'd see the day where I sat down, looked at Twitter, and missed Verlis. Like,
Felicify definitely he served a good purpose as being a distraction from all the it's crazy stuff, he got removed from Twitter, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out. No one has the punching bag that they're used to have, and the drama's got to keep flowing.
Yeah, and then this ends up coming out. It's insane. But again, ideally it's just healthy for the Pokemon community going forward.
Yeah.
And
free Felicify, by the way.
Okay. And it just helps us grow. Because again, responsibility to your community, for your community, and all that stuff. It's so important. So like while I'm sad what ends up happening, and I'm sure tons of people don't know how to feel as well, because their favorite content creators are shown as potential beasts or monsters or whatever, right? And you get to see the side where they're a lot more vulnerable and whatnot. I do look forward to how we move forward and again, what ends up coming out of this, because
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about the future, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's bright.
I don't think people are going to let people get away with stuff. That's it. Period. When something ends up
I think
happening,
in our community, like the Me Too has reached our community now, and I think that is now. Any of this happens, people are going to instantly bam. You know, someone goes, "Hey, send me a nude," and people are on Twitter, bam, you're done.
screenshot. You
Yeah.
better be clean. You better, dude. Speaking of, you better be clean. I had someone come to my stream last night and say, "Where were you during the Vegas event?" And I was like,
Oh god,
I was at my home in the Bronx playing video games. He's like, "Well, how do you have proof?" Because I
The
was
Vegas event.
yeah, during PAX 2014, whatever. I was like,
Oh,
I've never,
with Patters.
yeah, I've never been to a PAX event in my life. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you live right next to PAX East, and you still don't go. Like,
It's always during my mother's and my wife's birthday, so I can't do that stuff.
yeah.
But
so there's some connotations to going to PAX these days, bro.
yeah, there are.
It's
There are definitely there's a lot that people say about PAX itself.
I skipped it this year. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
like out of personal reasons, or what's the?
I could have gone. I actually had an offer for a company to fly me out there, pay me to be there. Well, two things. One, they wouldn't fly Beryl out, and so the pay would have barely even reached her flight.
yeah,
Right.
And two was that, like, to me, it's just every time I've gone to PAX, other than one time, there's been some kind of drama. I didn't expect it to be this,
yeah.
but like some kind of drama, like people falling out, all of that. And I'm just like, I just want to sit at home and work. I just wanted to get to work and sit at home and, you know, get pre-recorded, launch new channels, you know, try and diversify, all kinds of stuff. Like, I just want to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree, and there's definitely something that always comes out of PAX. I agree with that as well. Though this time, in this case, it actually ended up being a good thing.
Drama should
Yeah,
not
this
be
one shouldn't
content.
come out.
Drama doesn't need to be your content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think small drama as content is a really bad thing. I mean, making content about this drama that's going on now, I think is actually important because it needs to get out there. There are people who might see Dakota in the future and not know because they're not on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Omni's video was so good because it literally just summed up what was 100% known.
Yeah. So again, guys, we will be linking that down below. Duncan, we definitely want to thank you for coming out on the lock. If you have anything that you want to plug going forward, now is the time. Now is just time to do anything. Your channel, your Twitter, any projects you have.
My Brave link will be in the description. Joey's Brave link will be in the description.
I haven't done it yet.
No, I'm over on YouTube at youtube.com/DuncanCan'tDie. Twitch is the same, DuncanCan'tDie, and then Twitter, the same as that, DuncanCan'tDie. If you want to see my terrible Instagram where all I do is post workout videos, then that's the same thing too. I'm just DuncanCan'tDie everywhere. Don't worry about it.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining myself and Key on the lock.
Pleasure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Guys, again, hope you were watching it on Anchor because it comes out a lot earlier than it does on YouTube. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Check them out. Goodbye, everybody.